This is Lady B, and this week I wanted to talk about dry shampoo. Now, with the increased popularity of long hair and long hair styles, we're seeing a reemergence of dry shampoos, and there are companies now that make special dry shampoos just for people to use to try and lengthen the amount of time between having to wash your hair. Now, the thing about dry shampoos is it's not new. They have been around for ages and ages. My mother, who was a teenager in the 50s, used dry shampoo. In fact, it was a standard thing back then, using an oatmeal dry shampoo. And she mentioned it a few times, mostly to talk about how much she hated it and how it didn't work for her, and I will touch on that later. But it was a very common thing until the 80s, I think, late 70s, maybe early 80s. It was fairly common to not wash your hair more than once a week. It just wasn't considered good for your hair, and the fact is it really isn't. Washing your hair more frequently than once a week can dry it out. And if you're going for long, luscious locks, that is an issue. So dry shampoo can be one of the ways that you can stretch that couple of extra days that you need to make it that week when your hair isn't quite looking like you want it to. Now, the dry shampoos that you buy, the over-the-counter cosmetics, they're a powder that you just put in your hair. But in the past, it was a little different, and this still works. You can use cornmeal, almond flour, oatmeal, oat flour. Oat flour was what my mother used that she hated so much. Let me check. Let's see. Bran. Bran is another option. Any of these things can be used as a dry shampoo. Now, they're used a little differently than the cosmetic ones you buy, but they have the advantage of being all natural. So if you're an all natural girl, this is something you might want to try. You want to take about a half a cup. In this case, this is almond meal, because this is what I have on hand. I was going to try the oat flour, but I could not find it. I guess I used it up. So this is almond meal, and this is what I used when I tried it just recently. I'm not sure how recently, but it's been within the last couple weeks. I decided to give it a try myself. And what you do is you massage it through your hair and your scalp. Now, I used an inexpensive brush to get it in along my scalp before adding it to the rest of my hair. And that's just, this is just a cheap brush that I picked up at Walmart. Cost me $5, not a big deal. And you work it in your hair, 3-5 minutes, you massage it in, and then you brush out the excess or comb. You use either a medium brush like this one, or a medium comb like this one, or a bristle brush. Like this is a boar bristle brush, the type I use. And you brush or comb out the excess, and it's that simple. It absorbs the extra oils, and it then, you get out the extra, and it leaves your hair full and just full of body, and it does work. There are caveats with that, though. If you have thin hair, if you're, and by thin I mean it has to do with the number of follicles per square inch. Your density is low where you have thinner hair. This might not work for you. And this was my mother's problem. Because while you brush it out of your hair, it does leave it on your scalp. This is part of what gives your hair so much body with the dry shampoo. And it, gives that lift and stuff. But if your hair is thinner to the point where you can actually see through to the scalp, you can see the stuff that has been left on your scalp. And that was my mother's problem. She had the same hair I do in the size of the hair shaft, the follicle, is the baby fine hair. But where I have a lot of hair per square inch, she did not. She had thin hair. And so for her, it never worked because you could always tell that there was something in her hair, and she hated it. Absolutely hated it. So if you have thin hair, then a dry shampoo is probably not for you. Dry shampoo using a cornmeal is supposed to be very, very, very good for dandruff. If you're somebody who suffers from dandruff, this can help you. It's supposed to actually really work. I have a book here by Virginia Castleton called the Handbook of Natural Beauty. It was published by her a few years after the other book I usually use, which was the Calendar Book of Natural Beauty, in which she quotes a report by an L. Edward Gall, MD of Evansville, Indiana, where a patient whose seborrhea and hair loss didn't respond to any medicated lotion used only the cornmeal for a period of several months, and there was a slow but steady improvement in scalp condition, and at the end of a year, the heavy scaling, greasy scalp, and marked thinning of the hair were reversed. So there's another thing that might work. If you have perhaps issues with dandruff, then this might be something that will help with that as well. Now, like I said, I tried it out myself. I was going to do a whole video on it where I showed myself using it, and the fact is, the first time I tried it was the last time I tried it. Because like my mother, I hated it, but not for the same reason. I'm one of these fiddlers. I'm always having to do things with my hands, and one of the things I do with my hands throughout the day, if I'm thinking about something or concentrating on something and I'm not doing something with my hands, one of the things I will do is I'll just reach up and smooth my fingers in my hair. And I know it's something I should stop doing, but I think it's too late for me. I'm just going to touch my hair throughout the day. I just will. And every time I ran my fingers along my scalp, they came back with this stuff under my nails, and it drove me absolutely bonkers. I could not stand it. It drove me crazy. I ended up washing my hair early instead of later because of it. So that's why I don't have a video showing you how it works. But it is very, very simple. You just apply it to the scalp and into the rest of the hair, half a cup. 3-5 minutes of just scrubbing, letting those particles absorb the oil in your hair, and then brushing it out. It's that simple if you want to use the more natural version. And like I said, it does work. My hair looked amazing. I just couldn't stand it. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. So rather than a multiple review of different types of dry shampoos, you're just going to have to get my thoughts on it, because I'm never doing it again. Never. But if you aren't someone who runs your fingers through your hair and that doesn't bother you, and you want a little more body, and you're maybe having trouble getting that extra few days to make it to 1 week before you have to wash your hair, and you're trying for that long, luscious locks, then maybe this will work for you. So, I love you all, whether new or old. And I hope to see you all with a much longer video next week. I do apologize for how short this is. I have been rather sick this last month. I had so many plans and they all just went down the tub. They just all went, just tanked. That's what I was trying to say. They just tanked. But I have plans for the next month, and I will hopefully see you next week. If you would like to see more, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you then. Until then, with the increased popularity, there we go.